So this week's topic is using autofill tags to customize message templates. And basically what those do and what we'll learn about today is how those allow you to save time typing. They're placeholders that go into your message templates so that you can automatically fill those tags, those message tags, with information from the transaction, saving you a ton of time. Okay? So before we start a topic about autofill tags, or message tags as they're also called, we have to, of course, talk about message templates because the autofill tags are used within the message templates. And there are two ways to create message templates in Pipeline. The first one is the most popular way. So let me hop over to Pipeline here. And that's to create a message while you're sending, when you're about to send it or add it to the transaction while you're on a transaction. So let's hop over to a transaction here and start adding a message. I'm just going to enter a generic message here. How about need listing docs? Go grab some text to enter my message. So here's a fairly standard message here. I'm going to send, letting the person know I'm waiting for some listing docs. The way that I save this as a reusable message template is to check this option here. Save this message as a reusable template. And when I do that, it lets me identify what I want this template to be called, and I'm fine with need listing docs. So whenever I send this or add this note, whichever I'm going to do, send it to someone or just add it, it's going to save this as a template called need listing docs. Okay. And then to reuse that, I would just go to my reusable templates here, find it, and it'll automatically repopulate those fields with that so I don't have to redo it manually. Okay, so huge time saver there. That's the first way that you create reusable message templates. The second way is a little lesser known, and that is if you go to your name in the upper right corner and then click it, and then do personal profile. And I'm going to open this in a separate tab here. Reserve my other tab. And then from the left menu, click email templates. Here you'll see all of the templates you've created. You can edit them if you want to change any information. You can delete them if they're no longer valid. And of course, you can add new ones. So here, if I were to add one, I'd add it the same way I did on the transaction. Maybe I'll call this listing docs 2, just for the sake of or lack of creativity, and then save that one. Notice that I can share these message templates with others on my team, either with admins or with everyone, and that's really helpful when you, depending on what your workflow is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that template again, same as I did when I was on the transaction. The benefit of doing it here is I can actually create these message templates without sending it or adding it to the transaction. So whenever I just want to create it outside of those scenarios so that I can use them later, I would do so here. All right. Okay, so let's head back to the transaction. If you've used message templates before, you certainly have probably come to a point where you said to yourself, I wish that I could insert information from the transaction without having to type, that custom information each time, whether it be, let's say, a close date or a listing agent's name, or, whatever information you want to draw from the transaction, you wished you could kind of plug it in there automatically in your template. Well, that's what autofill tags allow you to do. So let's say I wanted to send someone's an incomplete tasks type of message. I want to let them know your transaction's closed. Please complete this information. Thanks, Mary, right? But I want to make it a little more personal. So in this case, I want to actually mention, I'm going to send this to the listing agent's name, so I want to mention their name directly. So in that case, instead of manually typing their actual name, I could come over here to my message tag icon, click it, and select, in this case, I want the listing agent's first name. Okay, so I can put that message tag there, hit comma, and now I've got a more personalized message. And then of course I'd want to save this as my reusable template. And whenever I'm using, I can also put the message tags in the subject as well. And there'll be certainly scenarios where that would be appropriate. Now, whenever I've got a message tag in my subject or in my message body, I'll automatically be shown the preview when I go to send it. So here I'll preview and add note. Actually, let me send it to someone. Preview and send email. Okay, so in doing that, it pops me up a preview so I can confirm that everything looks as I intended based on those tags. So hi Otto, your transaction's closed, etc. And that'll happen every time I use this message template, not just this first time when I'm creating it. Okay? So if I'm good with this, I'll go ahead and send that message. And again, I've saved some time and had or created a very custom message that's more personal. Okay? So let's look at another example. Let's add a few more detailed tags here. Let me use a template that one of my teammates has created, and you can see this is how the shared templates looked. I talked about sharing templates a moment ago. This is how they look when someone else is trying to view them. So let's say I want to use this closing date with contact template. Okay. In that case, here I've got, I'm sending this to the buyer. Notice I've got my close date in my subject, so we're about to close on a particular date. Hello, the buyer name, our closing date scheduled for a particular closing date, and then it's got some more advanced information that we'll get to in a moment. Okay, but again, you can see how I can embed that information into my message and make it far more custom, saving me a ton of time having to really craft and build all that information for every single time I need to send this message. Let's send that to that person and preview and send. And I can see this, the preview of the message to make sure everything looks okay. This template actually has all this detail down below, but again, you can see hello, the buyer name. In this particular case, I don't have certain information on the transaction. For example, the close date is not yet defined. So our closing is scheduled for, it's missing that date there. So I'll need to, that's why I've got this preview to confirm that everything looks okay. Now, one little note is in our next release, this missing information will be a lot more visible. So right now, if you were to do it, it's a little bit harder to find that missing information. But again, in our next release, this will be, I believe it'll be red, and there'll be a placeholder there so that you'll be able to identify really quickly if that information's missing on this particular transaction. It could be that, depending on the tag that you're using, that information appears on some transactions and not on others. So that's what this preview catches, is when the information is missing on this particular transaction. Okay. So in this case, I probably wouldn't send it. It's missing that information. So I'd go and edit that message. Maybe I need to edit the transaction. Whatever scenario needs to take place, you can correct for that and then try sending it again. Okay, so that's how you can embed that information and use it wisely to help save yourself time. And let me actually, there's one more bit of information I want to tell you about a more advanced feature. So this is how you would, that was how you would use all of these different types of fields, right? You've got pretty much all of the fields on the transaction that you can reference here. There may be a couple of exceptions, but you can reference all of those fields here. The ones that you cannot reference or what you can't access from this list are your contact fields, but there is a way to do so. So in other words, if I were sending a message and I wanted to reference not the agent, because I've got my agent fields under here, but I wanted to reference a specific contact on the transaction, perhaps an escrow officer, I could do that. And the way that I do is by accessing or heading over to our help site. Go ahead and type in autofill or even just auto to find that article. And at the bottom here, you will see some advanced autofill tags, and they're all related currently to adding contacts. So in this case, if I wanted to, these are examples of using an escrow officer or the role of escrow. I'll show you how that works once we jump back over there. But I'm going to copy the email, the name here, the person's name. Head back over to that transaction. And actually you can see it here in this particular template. The way that this is constructed is that the tag includes the fact that it's a contact. You can specify which role you want to reference and then which field, okay? So the field name is company, you need to specify the role. So in this case here, if I wanted to specify Manta's name, since she's the escrow officer on here, I would need to specify that it's a contact here. I'm pulling it from the contacts, that the role is escrow, right? This bolded role there, and which field I want to reference. In this case, it's referencing company name, but actually in my case, I want to, let's say, use the, I just copied that, use the name instead of the company, okay? So this would actually show Manta's name there. So let's go ahead and preview that and see what that looks like, right? So right there, it pulled that person's name, okay? So that's how you use those advanced contact fields. And again, you can reference the person's name, you can reference their company name, their role itself, the phone number, whatever you need to pull by using these tags here. So again, that's all that you can do with or everything that you can do with the autofill tags, including those advanced methods.